All right. Hello out there to anyone who might tune in now or watch in the future. Um, I'm Colin Blanchette. I'm here today with Jeremy Stone. We are here to talk about Die With Your Mask On #3, specifically the 100 best superhero comics of all time, a list that I and Jeremy and 9 other people contributed to. We all voted, made up a list of top 100s, and then a smaller group, 3 of us, basically put together the final list. So, Jeremy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, what did you think when you first heard about this project?
I thought it was going to be a lot of fun, and it was. I actually thought that I didn't think I'd be able to come up with a list of 100, actually. I thought it was going to be tough to come up with more than 50. And as it turns out, I had trouble whittling it down to 100. And I think a lot of people had that issue. Um, no pun intended. Um, yeah, so what did you think about it?
Um, well, I guess ultimately I'm the guy who came up with the idea to do it. Um, I did a series of videos and I did a special issue about the Comics Journal's top 100, and I thought it would be fun to do a version of that, but one that was a little more manageable. And so superheroes seemed kind of ripe for the plucking. Um, and one of the guys who contributes to Canon, Chris Russ, he made a comment to me in an email where he said that superhero readers have maybe done a better job at canonization than alternative comics, or other branches of comics have done. And part of that's probably the kind of people who are drawn to reading superhero comics. That kind of fandom lends itself towards lists and arguing about what's better, and then of course just commercially a lot of those books have been able to stay in print, and so people were able to read them and reread them and talk about them more. And um, so yeah, when I had the idea, I thought it was a good idea, but I really thought it would only be as good as the people who made lists. And thankfully, through doing Canon, which is, I guess I should say, is like our main zine. There's a link to our store in the information about this video. But yeah, through doing Canon, got to know several people who I thought would be good list makers, and you're one of them. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very happy with how the list turned out. It did not. I don't think it didn't match anyone's list 100%. It wasn't. It's a compromise list, but I think in a good way. I think it got lots of interesting things on there that I don't think a lot of us would have guessed to begin with. And at the top of the list, I was just talking to someone last night about it, and he said about the top of the list being fairly conventional. He had said that it was, kind of, it is the standard stuff, but it's the standard stuff that makes sense. And you need to get out of the way, and then you can get on to the more idiosyncratic stuff. I'm totally paraphrasing and butchering what he said to me, but he's right. There's just certain accepted classics that probably needed to go at the top.
Yeah. I was, and I agree with that. I think that, what do you think about All-Star Superman at #6? That's kind of like, I think that's a great superhero comic, but I don't know that, considering all of the other, there are a bunch of other kind of classics, I guess, that are lower than that.
Yeah, to be honest, I had it on my list, but I had it way down the list. And I reread it when I was making the list, and I kind of felt about it the same way I felt about it when I first read it, which is, this is good, but it's not great. There were a couple one guy had it #1 on his list.
Yeah.
Another guy, Ryan Carey, who I'm going to do another one of these talks with in a few days. I know he rates that comic very, very highly. So it had votes. It had the votes. It got that high. I wasn't surprised, but I
Yeah.
was a little. I thought it would have been more understandable, maybe 20 spots back, but
Hmm.
you know, is that the only one of the top 10 that really stood out to you?
I think so. I mean, obviously, it's not. It's not my top 10 probably, but all of those are great comics and definitely on my list and high on my list. Actually, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at my list because a lot of them definitely deserve top 10. But that's one of the issues that we came up, or that I had going through this procedure was, um, I would just think of stuff and like, oh, well, that belongs up there and that should be high and that should be high, and then, like I said, there were things that I totally forgot about that I wish I would have gotten on the list, and things I had to cut that I didn't want to cut. And yeah, so um, I agree with you though. I mean, it's a representative list. I don't, I don't 100% agree with everything on there. And also, honestly, um, I think you made the point in the magazine, but we're all limited by our reading experience, right? And I know that you really tried to read and reread a lot of things in preparing for the list. I tried too, and I didn't get nearly as much reading and rereading done. I mean, some of my list honestly is made up of books that I haven't read in years, but that I just have a memory of being so
Sure.
great.
Yeah,
You know?
I think everybody had to do that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can't sit down and read 600 comics to try to whittle it down.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are holes in my reading, and like you said, there are a whole bunch of '80s superhero comics on here because I was born in 1972, and so in the '80s I was prime superhero comic reading time. I was 14 and turned 14 in 1986, so I mean that was a pivotal year to be a 14-year-old comic book reader. To see Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen and everything else that went along with it.
Yeah, I did a breakdown in this issue of where these comics first appeared in by decade. Um, in the 80s, and or at least where they first appeared in, so not necessarily the whole run, but
Hmm.
yeah, the 80s had 38, so almost 40% of the list just from the 80s, and the 90s had 20, so you know almost 60% of the list just from those two decades. And I think that's a matter of demographics, guys like you and me and the other people. I mean, I think the youngest voters were probably in the mid 30s,
Mm.
oldest probably in the early 60s. Um, so it's about a 30-year swing, but those 80s and 90s loom pretty large for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing from the 2020s.
No, um, yeah, I certainly didn't vote for anything from the 2020s.
Yeah. And I think we can say that superhero comics were uniformly bad from the 2020s on.
I feel comfortable saying that, even if it's not true. And
Yeah, yeah.
sure somebody will say it's not true. And it probably isn't. I'm sure there's good stuff.
Oh,
Um,
you know what I had on my list was Santos Sisters.
oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a good vote. Um, well, I haven't done the videos yet where I count down the top 100. I am going to do those.
Okay.
But I kind of wanted people to order the issue first. Um,
Yeah.
so it is funny. We're talking about a list that people don't have access to. But I thought I would read the top 10 real fast. And maybe we
It's a
can
good
talk
idea.
about those a little bit since you had a bunch of these pretty high as well. So, uh, number 10 was Daredevil by Frank Miller, the 70s and 80s run. Number 9, Miracle Man by Alan Moore, Gary Leach, and various artists. Number 8 is Fourth World by Jack Kirby. Number 7, Uncanny X-Men by Chris Claremont and John Byrne. Number 6, All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. Number 5, The Amazing Spider-Man by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. Number 4, Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. Number 3, Batman The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, Klaus Jensen, and Lynn Varley. Number 2, Fantastic Four by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. And number 1, Watchmen, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. You had Watchmen at number 1.
Yeah.
You're one of 2 people, and it's the only comic that appeared on every single list.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to argue against Watchmen's, just how good it is. I've never met anybody who read it and is like, or I didn't like it, I hated it, or whatever. Although I would probably assume that I would meet someone who would say they hated it. That's more likely than someone who just says, whatever,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Watchmen blew me away when I read it, and I didn't read it as it was coming out. I didn't have access to a comic shop, but I got a trade paperback at Baybrook Mall's Walden Books, as soon as I could. And I thought it was excellent when I was 14. And then every time I reread it, I think I get something more out of it. And the more I read about it, the more I get out of it. I mean, just even, something that I didn't notice reading it myself was the care that Dave Gibbons put into, not just drawing the pages, but the layout of the pages and how they all work together, and how the mirror images, in the Rorschach issue, and all of that. I mean, just every panel thought out and every page layout thought out, and just like it's an unbelievable work.
How do you feel about the argument that it isn't much of a superhero comic?
I don't think that's a very good argument.
No?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's about superheroes, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand that it's not a good superhero comic. I guess in the traditional sense that a superhero comic should be, you have a hero who, fights evil or otherwise, saves the day. And that doesn't happen in this.
Well, yeah, I'm not even saying that it's not a good superhero comic, but there isn't a whole lot of superheroics that happen in the entire thing. I mean, I guess Dr. Manhattan is doing, fantastical things throughout the series, but outside of Ozymandias catching the bullet, I mean, I guess there's some fighting that happens, but not a lot. I mean, I voted for it too, though I have never really thought of it as a superhero comic, and sort of voted for it under protest. I voted for it at number 100. Even though I think it's a better comic than every other comic on this list. So just by that criteria, you could put it number 1. But it was sort of a protest vote for me. So I was chagrined to see that we all voted for it, and it still got more points than any other book and ended up at number 1.
Yeah, but I mean, it's about superheroes, and it's the whole superhero deconstruction thing that, I guess was started by Watchmen. Would you say that there was another comic that started that, or?
Well, I mean, it's sort of concurrent with Dark Knight.
Right.
And before that, you had Rick Veitch's The One.
Mm-hmm.
And you also had Mark Gruenwald's Squadron Supreme. Those 2 titles aren't the same as Watchmen and Dark Knight, but they are taking the genre apart and doing things that hadn't really been done before. I definitely think Squadron Supreme is a sort of precursor to this other. It's not nearly as good, but it is a precursor to these other things. The one is pretty great. That's a really
Yeah.
neglected book and probably should be talked in the same, maybe not in the same. It shouldn't be in the top 10, but it should be a lot higher than it is on our list. I think if you're talking about deconstructing superheroes. I'm trying to remember where it ended up. 85. So it made the list. It's respectable.
Yeah.
And I think it suffers from not being read very widely. But I mean, there might be other examples. I mean, certainly Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, you could probably file that under deconstructing superheroes. He basically, in his second issue, took the character apart and remade it completely.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think about that?
All good arguments. All good arguments, Colin. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I just think that Watchmen was very specifically a deconstruction. I mean, there's no question what Alan Moore was doing with it. And it just made such a big splash, which kind of brings me to another thing, and that is that one of our guideposts was to not take into account the importance of a book or its influence necessarily. But for me, and we talked about this, it was hard to totally separate that. I mean, I love Watchmen as a comic, but the fact that it had such an effect on comics too is something that I couldn't separate from my mind as far as where to put it on a list. The same with Dark Knight Returns for me, But both of those I enjoy as comics, even without just they're really interesting reads, I mean, page turners, both of them, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they both stand. I don't usually like the phrase transcends the genre because most things actually don't usually transcend their genre, and that's a justification the fans come up with to puff something up. But I think Watchmen and Dark Knight both do that. That they can be taken a little more seriously than some of these other comics. You had 5 of the top 10 in your top 10. Watchmen, Dark Knight. Actually, maybe 6. Watchmen, Dark Knight, Year One, Miller's Daredevil, Fantastic Four, and Ditko Spider-Man. Jeremy, you there?
Okay. Yes. Am I going away? Okay.
Yeah, your video is off. Yeah.
All right. I'm switching back and forth to my top 100, and I guess when I do that, it takes the video off. So I'll stop doing that.
That's all right. If you have to, you have to. It's fine.
Yeah. So I guess I have the I'm in line with the hive mind. All of these books are top superhero books.
You're the median voter.
That's right. Mr. Average, I like to call myself. Yeah, I don't know what else you want me to say about those. I mean, Dark Knight Returns is probably, I put Watchmen as number 1, but honestly, Dark Knight Returns is probably the book that I would take to a desert island. It's probably the book that I've reread the most. And yeah, Fantastic Four by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. I mean, what can you say that hasn't already been said about it? I mean, just set the trend for superhero comics thereafter.
Yeah. Just want to say hi to Donald here. This is Donald Rex popping in. Your fellow Texan. He's in San Antonio.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the first comic you had on your list that didn't make the final list is Hulk 1 through 6.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And it was one of my last cuts. if I recall correctly. And if I had voted for it, it would have made the list. Which surprised me. I was surprised it had that much support. Um, you just never hear about that particular Silver Age comic, you know.
Yeah. For me, it was one of those things that in my write up for the Doctor Strange entry, I referenced how I first encountered it, and it was in one of those paperback
Mm-hmm.
books, where they chop up the panels and reassemble it. And when I was a kid, I loved them, and I had the Hulk one too, and that's how I first read it. And I read that one a million times. And, just the original Kirby Hulk classic story, and yeah, it's hard to, for me, it's like, in the top 100 superheroes, it's hard not to put almost every one of those Silver Age Marvels in there. I'm not a
Yeah.
big Avengers fan, so I didn't put Avengers in there, but Hulk, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange,
Mm-hmm.
all kind of immediate entries for me.
Yeah, I agree. And that stuff it wasn't really accessible for people our age, but it was a little more accessible. You could find those paperbacks, you could find, reprints and like Marvel Triple Action,
Yeah.
there were reprint titles where you could at least get some of the flavor of some of that material. And that's something I wanted to ask you about is, I guess you talked about some of these things you haven't read in a really long time, but they loomed so large in your mind. Um, how hard was it to divorce nostalgia, and or did you even try?
Um, I guess I tried a little bit, but not much, you
Okay.
know, because if the instruction was to list your personal 100 best superhero comics, then it was that had to play a part in it. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Um,
How about
I
for
think,
you?
um, I'll be honest, I actually tried to be more nostalgic. I think, sometimes I would reread these things and they would not hold up to my memory. So, um, there's probably at least 10 things that I read and then scratched off that I would have sworn would have been on my list. Um,
Yeah.
but then you reread, you go, well, that either wasn't good or it wasn't nearly as good as I remembered it in my mind. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's, uh, with superheroes, nostalgia does play a really big part of it. But I think, hopefully we were all rational adults and we could, you know, separate some of those feelings. Here's a comment from Donald. I haven't seen your top 100, but high on my list would be Gene Day's Master of Kung Fu run. Um, I'll be honest, I don't know if it got any votes. Um, and that does surprise me a little bit. Um,
That
I
was
mean,
and that was a title that I really liked too, and I can't remember off the top of my head if we discussed whether that was a superhero or not, you know?
yeah. Well, the criteria of what isn't a superhero got bandied about quite a bit, but um,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it qualifies for sure as a superhero comic.
Yeah.
I'll say for
That's a
me, I haven't read enough of it, and that was
yeah.
why I didn't consider it. How about you? Have you
Yeah.
read good big chunks of it?
I don't know that I would say big chunks, but I read enough to say that I really liked it.
Yeah,
It's another one of those comics that I read, um, you know, a couple of handfuls of issues, and I've actually got a run of it now and still haven't read the whole thing from,
interesting.
beginning to end. So,
Yeah.
but
Did
I
you
mean, I
buy
love what's
Go
that?
ahead. I was gonna say, did you buy single issues?
I did because
Awesome.
and this was before the price really shot up, but I got a good deal on a whole set, so I picked it up.
Nice.
But then, like I said, I haven't read it, so it's sat there for years.
Yeah.
But so the couple handful of issues that I read, I had when I was young, and I loved them, and I read them again and again. So yeah, I always, I liked superheroes, but I also liked stuff that was not the usual kind of superhero. I wasn't crazy about team books for the most part, except for X-Men. I tended to like the single superhero or vigilante type superhero like Batman or Daredevil, and things that were kind of not the typical superhero like Master of Kung Fu, or, as you know, Conan the Barbarian,
Yeah.
one of the best ever comics.
But
Um, so
not a
yeah,
superhero.
what's that?
But not a superhero.
True, true.
According to your list, you didn't vote for him. So
No, I didn't. I didn't think it was a superhero.
yeah.
Although, Ray originally had red nails on there, which excited me. So, but I
Yeah.
think that he was just maybe he was just thinking of some of his favorite comics, and then
Yeah.
that dropped off his list.
Could have had that what if issue where he does he come to modern times and join the Avengers or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, there was the old What If issue. I don't think he joins the Avengers. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I think he does come to modern times, and is encounters thugs with guns and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Um. So I don't know. You've got your list. I don't know how easy it is for you to look through it, but was there something or more than one thing on your list that you were heartbroken didn't make it?
I don't think there was anything that I was heartbroken about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I look at this, my video is going to go away, but I don't
That's
think
okay.
that
You can
matters
drop
so
out.
much. Okay, let me look. What's funny is I can't remember. It's hard for me to remember which ones are on there and which ones aren't.
For sure.
Did Mage make it?
Mage did not make it.
Mage is one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
had
can't
that pretty
remember.
high.
Yeah. And then I had, um, did Batman, I had a whole bunch of Batman stuff on there.
Yeah, you did. A bunch of your Batmans got combined and averaged for the
Right.
Neil Adams spots.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised Zot didn't have more support.
Yeah, I had Zot and Destroy on my list.
Yeah,
The Jam made it though, didn't it?
it did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, near the end of the list, but it made it on there.
I had Concrete.
Yeah, you and somebody else voted for Concrete. It got 2 votes. That's another one I don't really consider to be a superhero comic, but
Yeah.
that's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, the Santos sisters, like I said, that was pretty low on my list. So I'm not surprised. But I have some good comics on here. Colin didn't make it. Wolverine, Natsuki, things that kind of tended to be more the art is what drew me to it.
Yeah.
But George Pratt writes a pretty good story too. So I thought the Natsuki series was pretty good. Wolverine Havoc Meltdown I liked a lot. But I'm not surprised or too disappointed that those aren't on there, because they're not, they're not like all-timers. You know what I mean? They're not
Yeah.
legendary superhero comics like a lot of these that did make the list are. Not all of them. I mean, obviously some things I'm kind of surprised are on there, but
Yeah.
that's what makes it fun. We can argue about whether, what the hell is One Punch Man doing on there?
Yeah. Well,
I've never read it though, so it's not fair for me to say that.
Same for me. One of the list makers had that as their number 1.
Yeah.
So here you go. I have great nostalgia for the Gil Kane and Ross Andrew drawn Spider-Mans. And, there were a couple of votes for that era of Spider-Man as well. I think one person voted for 1 through 100 of Amazing Spider-Man. And so we kind of split that vote. 1 for Ditko, 1 for, I think we did 1 for Ditko, 1 for Ramita. But it did show that there were some people who were interested in Spider-Mans from that era. I think for a list like this, though, the Ditko stuff kind of stands head and shoulders above everything else. Um,
Yeah, I
but
think I may have been the one who said 1 through 100
were
because I
you?
really like the Ramita run too. I can't remember if I said that or not, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's two like two. It's like yeah, it's two very different styles of Spider-Man.
Yes. So you have, I assume you have the issue next to you.
Yeah.
So when you look at the final list as it turned out, let's be antagonistic for a minute. Are there any? But you already brought up All Star Superman being a little puzzling to you. What else on here do you think you don't care for, or do you think was way too high? Um, there's nothing
Well,
personal here because it was a group effort. So
yeah. Yeah, so Thor, God of Thunder by Jason Aaron and Asad
yeah,
Ribic. I'm not sure how
sure,
you
yeah,
say his name. I think I read that because it was every once in a while I'll go into my local comic store, Bedrock City, and I'll ask them about, new comics that I may not know about, because they kind of know what I like. I go in there and get the weird stuff mostly, right?
yeah,
Um, but sometimes I'm like, what's new superhero wise or what's new, image wise or whatever that. And so a guy who also, he knows my taste and he has good taste. He's like, try the Thor, that's a great superhero comic. And so I tried it and it was pretty good, but I didn't think it was the greatest thing ever. I thought it was an entertaining story. Um, the art, I really liked the art a lot, but the story didn't, wasn't something that I needed to keep around. I had the trade and I read it and then I gave it away. Uh, so that's kind of how I feel about it. Not that it's the it's not terrible, you know what I
yeah,
mean? But I don't think it's one of the top 100 superhero comics of all time.
yeah. I that is one of, I think there's about a half dozen on here that I have not read at all, um, and that's one of them. Though I did pick up the first trade to make the videos about the countdown, so I'll have it now to look at. Um, but yeah, that one kind of surprised me, the level of support that it had.
Hmm.
Um, it came in at number 57,
Yeah.
so right above Astro City. Um, yeah, were
A lot
you?
of people love it.
Yeah, well, apparently so, especially considering it's a newer book to have the support it did on this list.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, the voters skew a little older.
I
Not
kind of felt
completely.
the same way about this, and this will really stir up. Uh, can we curse on this? Stir up
Yeah,
some shit.
yeah, go for it.
But Promethea. I mean, I love Alan Moore, and
Interesting.
but when I read Promethea, I didn't. Uh, I don't think I liked it as much as most people love that series. I love Williams's art, and I liked what more. I think the way it started was really interesting, but it kind of turned into, for me, I just kind of got tired of listening to Alan Moore talk about magic. So it
Yeah,
just wasn't, I can see how that might be really interesting to some people, and obviously to a lot of people because it's a very popular book. But for me, that wouldn't be in the top 100. Um,
that was my number 9. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
you want
way
to
up
fight
there.
me?
That's right. I'm
Well,
pro
tell me
magic.
what you like about it so much. Well, you already wrote, you wrote it. I read your write up, but since other people don't have the magazine, you want to
Um,
say what you
I
like about it?
Yeah, I don't know that I don't think I wrote about Promethea, did I?
Oh, you didn't? Well,
I don't think
I don't
so.
remember who wrote it.
I've lost track of everything. Um,
Well, what's funny is when I was reading this and I started, there was at least one entry that I wrote that I forgot that I'd written it, and I started reading it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, oh wait, I wrote that.
yeah, I had that shock a couple times too. I was like, oh, I forgot I did this.
So
Um,
silly.
I to me, like, out once you get past Watchmen, V for Vendetta, From Hell, kind of the obvious Alan Moore, I think to me Prometheus right in that second rung of his great work. Um, and you're right that it does get kind of talky and bogged down in some of that stuff. But for me, it's the way he constructs the entire series, the way it's so kind of planned out.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know how much it was actually planned out. I have a suspicion that he does not plan things out as much as we think he does. I
It
think
didn't
he's
seem to be particularly planned to me. It seemed like it started as an interesting, but superhero comic,
true.
kind of typical, and then as it went along, it turned into kind of an illustrated uh, series of Morris thoughts on magic to me. And maybe I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm too shallow to really
No, I
get the
doubt
true
that's
meaning.
true. No, I don't think that's true. I think we have all have our preferences.
Yeah.
You're right. The series does change quite a bit from the beginning to the end. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe that final issue looms so large in my mind. It's just an exercise in construction. Um,
But yeah, that is really cool. I mean, the
yeah,
way, yeah, the
I just
fold-outs and everything.
I just remember when I read it, I was blown away by it and thought it was
Yeah.
just one of the best things he'd ever written. I think it's easily the best thing from the ABC line. But I know people who like think top 10 is the best thing, or
Yeah.
well, I guess League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is a comic I don't particularly care for, and that has lots of supporters. So
I really liked the first series or the first two series of that. But the rest of the ABC line failed to grab me. I think I tried everything, but didn't keep with it. The one that I would like to go back to is 1963, but I guess that's not an actual ABC title.
no,
But
it's an Image, and
yeah,
that made our list, number
yes,
73, and that one I did write about. Um, yeah, I think 1963 is incredible, and even though it's never been collected, it's so easy to get. It's so
yeah.
cheap. It's there's no barrier to get it. I would say anybody out there comes across it in a dollar box or something, just grab them. You don't need to. They can all be read independently. There's only 6 issues, so
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah, I
I was very
remember.
surprised. Go ahead,
I
Jeremy.
was gonna say, like, I was working at a comic shop when those came out, and I
Mm,
remember long boxes of those comics,
yeah,
because they were ordered like they were the next Spawn, I think,
yeah,
universally, and they didn't sell like the next Spawn at the time. Um, but I don't, I used to see them a lot, but honestly, I don't see them that often anymore when I'm going through bargain bins. So
yeah.
I have no idea. I'm sure they're still pretty easy to get though.
Yeah, I've seen them when I've poked around, and I think you could put together a set pretty easily.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think that series was the biggest payday for everybody involved except Alan Moore, and it probably was for him too at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I
um,
mean, I don't remember all the specifics, but I remember that's what allowed, Bissett to do Tyrant, and I can't remember what everyone else was able to do because of the money they made off that series, but it did help publish a lot of other books, that's for sure.
yeah, Don Simpson's whole
Mm,
self-publishing Bizarre Heroes, I think, came out of that, and um, Chester Brown was already doing Yummy Fur, but I'm sure that helped him live and
yeah,
um, keep up with his other activities.
yeah,
I was very surprised that Tom Strong made the list. That wasn't
yeah,
an ABC title I thought anybody was particularly passionate about. Um,
yeah, yeah. It would not be, wasn't on my list. And again, these are
Same.
not. None of these are like, I wouldn't call them terrible comics. It's just something that I wouldn't put on the top 100 superhero comics.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um,
One thing that I'm
yeah,
glad that made it, that I think that I forgot about, was the Golden Age by James Robinson and Paul Smith.
that's right.
I thought that was a really strong miniseries at the time, And James Robinson at that time, I thought was just on fire. Um, I loved Starman when he was writing it, and loved Golden Age, and then later Leave It to Chance. I was kind of sad that that didn't continue. Um, but he was, to me, he was like, he was in that line of the Alan Moore type, but still firmly rooted in superhero. He wasn't trying to make it not a superhero book. He was trying to make it, I don't know, a more fun superhero series whenever he was writing something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I voted for that book, and I reread it actually while making the list, so it was fresh in my mind. Um, yeah, that's another one that I think is sort of unjustly neglected
Hmm.
from the sort of. It's weird. Is it a deconstructionist, or is it a nostalgic? Exercise in nostalgia. It kind of both things,
Yeah.
um, but it's really good. Paul Smith's art in there is pretty nice, um, even though it's not as well well presented as it could be, just because of the kind of muddy printing technology they were using for those prestige format comics.
Yeah.
I got a comment here from Vic Shade. I was just looking through the top 100 book. Thank you for buying one. Those lists are fun because they make you think what would be on your individual list. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely something I was hoping everyone would feel the same way when they got it. And I love lists because you can get outraged about what you don't agree with, and then you can pat yourself on the back with for agreeing with whoever made a list. Often in the same list, you can have those same feelings.
Yeah. That's the fun. That's what's fun about it, to see the stuff like, what is that doing on there? And then also, look, of course, Watchmen is number one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, unoriginal.
Or especially like, something like the Golden Age, which I think is, largely forgotten, really. I mean, you don't hear about it much. And to see like when someone else brings up a book that you hold in high esteem from yesteryear and it's kind of disappeared, it's always fun to find your people out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
One thing
and
I was surprised. Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
no, no, no. I was just going to say another thing that I really like about this list, like the Comics Journal list, and then this one are not only what we were just talking about, but the write-ups too. It's fun to read through those. Um, even if it's a comic that back and forth, I still love reading the
Yeah.
blurbs. I'm the type of person who likes reading about the popular culture about as much as I like the popular culture. Whether that's comics or movies or books or whatever. I read the New York Times book review supplement every Sunday, and I read hardly any of those books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, I get it.
uh,
That
yeah.
was the great thing about the old journal list, was there was so much stuff on there that I'd never heard of or had never seen a copy of. So at least you had a few hundred words of somebody making an argument for why this was significant or what was interesting about it. And so I definitely wanted us to have the same thing with this list here. I wanted to have
Yeah.
little write-ups. And in general, I asked everybody what they'd be interested in, and I tried to, like, everyone who wrote about something had it on their list at least, but not everyone got all their favorite picks. I had to kind of
Right.
disperse them because there were some books nobody claimed. I actually wrote a bunch of the ones nobody claimed, and was able to pawn off a couple others. But I had Brad Curry write about Watchmen, even though he did not vote for Watchmen #1, because I thought he might say something different than
Uh-huh.
me or you or Ray, who is the other one who voted for #1. I thought maybe he would be a little less worshipful than we all might have been. And I think he did a great job. I think it's a great write-up.
Yeah.
And I honestly think the write-ups are really strong across the board, from everybody.
Yeah, I think so too. Really
Yeah, and
enjoyed it.
that was the only one where I kind of played that game with. In general, I tried to go with people being enthusiastic, but
Yeah.
uh, I thought and Brad was very surprised. I think he put it on his list of things I'm willing to write about almost as a joke. And then he was very surprised when I gave it to him.
Yeah.
But I thought for something that was the top spot, we should try to have a little fun. Yeah, Vic has a comment here. I would like an honorable mentions book. That would be cool. We might once our website is up and going, if the individual list makers are agreeable, we may just put all those lists up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't
That's a
print
good
them in
idea.
this. It would have taken up 20 something pages, and it would have. I wanted the final list to be the star. Um, so I think this way works better. But I think if we're all on board, it would be great to put them online and let people kind of sift through them, because there's hundreds of titles that didn't make the list. There were a lot of votes for books. Donald says, this reminds me of the Slings and Arrows book. Interesting to read what others think are great comics. Yeah, I love this. Do you know the Slings and Arrows guy, Jeremy? Have you ever seen those?
I've seen online, yeah, but I've read some of it, and I think it's great what I've read. But yeah,
Yeah, they have a couple of books. They're almost like the Leonard Maltin guide to movies.
yeah,
Just,
I've heard about that. I need to seek those out, because those would be cool to have. I love that kind
yeah,
of stuff.
they're pretty good, and they're pretty comprehensive. Nothing can have everything, of course. It's
Right.
but they're pretty fun. I bet you could find those for pretty cheap. But yeah, like Donald says, it's nice just to have a little write up. It's more than just
Hmm.
5 stars. This came out in 1981. It's nice to have somebody put at least a couple hundred
Right.
words of thought into it.
And also, like, I am not above being, you know, persuaded to give something a second look,
Sure.
and a lot of times I will question my own judgment because something is, continuously raved about, or someone, a writer, or a critic who I respect writes about a book and, gives it a good review. I like I like when I'm convinced that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
To look at something in a different way and to find the merit in it, or something about it that you missed maybe upon first reading it. Um, I like that. I also like, of course, just tearing something down too when everybody else likes it. But just for fun, not for real. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but one thing that I found surprising is, a lot of these I hadn't read, and a lot of these, honestly, I haven't read. A lot of them I haven't read in years. But one that I did reread was Arkham Asylum, that I wrote the blurb for, and I was surprised at how I still think it belongs on the list. I think it belongs where it is on the list, but it wasn't as fantastic as I remembered it. Like when I read it, I thought this is one of the best Batman stories ever, one of the coolest graphic novels. And I don't know if it's time and so many other great graphic novels coming out in the interim or what, but I didn't have that same feeling. I still think it's a really good comic, and I think that the art is fantastic. That's my favorite era of McKeon. I like the way his art looked then, but more than I like it now. Well, I would
Yeah.
say Cage's probably is the top for me, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, uh, but yeah, so that was interesting to read something that I thought was like one of the, best comics ever, and think, well, maybe it's not one of the best comics ever, but it's still one of the top 100 superhero comics.
Yeah. That would be on my list of ones I wish weren't on here. I think I don't like that book. I've every 5 years or so, I sort of forget, and I go, well, maybe I should. And so I've probably rebought it 2 or 3 times, because I'll get rid of it. I learned my lesson the last time. I'm like, no, just put it with the Grant Morrisons and forget about it. So yeah, that I like the McKean art, but in general, yeah, I don't care for that book very much. But I was not surprised it made the list at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Batman. It's a classic. It sold a ton of copies. So,
Yeah.
um, but
Suicide Squad is another book that
yeah,
recently I read for the first time, and I think it belongs on this list. But it was one of those comics that, again, I thought that the concept was silly when it was coming
mhm,
out, and like the second tier villains that they used, I thought a lot of them were kind of ridiculous, and so,
yeah,
and so I never tried it, and I just always dismissed it. It never looked good to me. And then when I saw Copra, I thought, "Whoa, this looks awesome!" This colored pencil stylized book. And then I learned quickly that it was, very heavily influenced by Suicide Squad. And so that's what made me go back and read Suicide Squad and also read about it. And a lot of people love that book, and
yeah.
so like you. And if you love something, it's got to be good.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I would hope that at least maybe there's something to recommend it. Something
Yeah.
interesting going on. Um, yeah, I'm glad it scraped in the list. It was what, number 97. So that I was a little, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. There are some comics I just sort of assumed would have more support than they did.
Mhm.
Um, and I'd say that's kind of one of them. That made the list, so I'm not complaining about it, um, but yeah, something like a Quantum and Woody. I thought, oh man, people have fond memories of that. That'll probably get a few votes. I think I was the only one who voted for it. Um, yeah, something like Marvel's Secret Wars, which I don't think there's a lot of people that love that comic, but it's sold a ton. Everyone has
Yeah.
kind of read that comic, and I think I was the only person who voted for it. That really surprised me, especially considering the age group of the voters. Um,
I remember liking it as a kid and then not having reread it, but just then later thinking it was ridiculous.
yeah,
And that's
well,
probably that's unfair to do, but
I mean, let's face it. A lot of these comics are ridiculous if
right.
you
Yeah.
start thinking
Yeah.
about the concept of it. My number one here that I think I was the only person that voted for it. I voted for it number two, and I really think this thing was harmed by not being in print, and that is JLA Avengers, um,
Mm.
which I would not make any arguments is some sort of classic of Western literature, but in terms of being a straightforward superhero comic, it's sort of the apex. I mean, it's just sort of the sort of earnest, straight faced, we're taking all this seriously, one of those kind of comics. It's sort of the ultimate example of that. But I do wonder how many people who were making lists had read that comic. Have you ever read it?
I have not. I've
Yeah.
never read it.
Yeah. I
So
don't know. And you might read it and hate it. I don't know. I mean, that might be true of some of the other guys too. But I think because of Marvel and DC's bullshit and that book not being in print, it doesn't quite have the reputation it deserves. Um,
yeah.
then again, one of the other list makers, Brad Curry, refers to Kurt Busiek as Kurt Snusiek. And so maybe it just wouldn't have the votes regardless.
Right. Well, Marvel's got on the list. So
Marvel's did. Yeah. I think
I
deservedly.
loved yeah, I loved that series. I'm trying to think of what Kurt Busiek, I liked his did he do Untold Tales of Spider-Man? That was a pretty solid book.
That was another one I was surprised. I think if this list had been made 20 years ago, there's no way that
Yeah.
comic doesn't make it on the list, right?
Yeah.
It was a real darling of certain kinds of readers.
Yeah. Well, it came out at a time when superheroes, I mean, it was like very much the image
Yeah.
look was in, and Marvel was trying to copy that. And so it was kind of refreshing to have a kind of a classic take on the character again, I thought. And Kurt Busiek also wrote some very, very good Conan comics for Dark
Oh,
Horse.
yeah. There you go. Yeah. I'm a Busiek guy. I think of that strata of writer, I think he's
Yeah.
kind of at the top. Basically, the guys who aren't trying to do deconstructionist serious
Right.
work, they're just
Just
writing
solid
straightforward.
superheroes. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. He always seems to have a pretty good point of view. He has something to say, but it's nothing weighty.
Right.
But he takes it very seriously, and he's and actually, here's another one I'll say: Avengers Forever. That's another Kurt Busiek
Mm.
series that I think is an all timer. And yeah, I was a little surprised nobody voted for that or seemed to care about it. But I don't know. I mean, what do I know? We're all in our own heads. We all read what we read, and
Yeah.
we know about Dark Knight or Watchmen, but all these other comics, you have no idea
Right.
who else is reading these things.
Yeah, and unfortunately, well, I don't know if unfortunately is the right word, but like I said earlier, I just didn't there is something about team books for the most part that just doesn't interest me. Now, I mean, there's exceptions to that because I did when the Avengers run that has that's I guess Stern and Buscema and
Yep.
Palmer, and that made the list, and I really really enjoyed that run when it was coming out, and so that was again around the time I was 13, 14, 15, I guess, reading that, and but I don't know what's different about. I can't tell you why I like that, but then I just won't read other Avengers books or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. I always loved. I shouldn't say always loved the X-Men, but I loved the X-Men. When I started reading it, it was in the Romita Jr. era. In the
Mm-hmm.
mid '80s,
Yeah.
and then but I immediately, like you pointed out, the only kind of back issue book that I could find was the Phoenix trade, the Fireside trade paperback, which I also loved and read a million times. Um, and then, but I loved the X-Men until I guess I kept buying it after, up through Silvestri's run on it, but then
Mm-hmm.
stopped when Lee started. Uh, and just,
Gotcha.
but by that point, I think that I was, that would have been about 1990-ish or 89 or something like that.
Maybe
It was right
just
before.
after.
Okay. So I would have been like, 19 or yeah, something like 19 or 20 and kind of moving more towards uh Cerebus and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um what about Crisis?
I don't know if Crisis. It may have gotten one vote. Um,
That's kind of
I,
surprising, don't you think?
I mean, on the one hand, it is surprising because it's so famous and it keeps being reprinted. On the other hand, it sucks. So I can understand why people wouldn't vote for it. Um, yeah, and I really think that think that it people sort of read it out of obligation. I think
Uh-huh.
like they want
I
to they know it was a big deal, so they feel they should read it. But
I've read the first 2 to 4 issues probably 3 times.
yeah,
And I've still got a set, and I still keep telling myself I'm going to read it. It's like
yeah,
Infinite Jest. I've read the first 100 pages of Infinite Jest like 3 times, and
yeah,
then I finally did give my copy away of that. But I still tell myself I'm going to read it one day.
sure. Yeah, a friend of mine was just talking about Crisis a couple days ago, and I told him just see if the library has it. Like don't
Right.
don't go buy it in any format. As like if you like it, you can always buy it, but I was like you won't. Um, yeah, but it's one of those things where you're surprised it didn't get on more lists just because of how big it is. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean George Perez puts in a ton of work into that thing. They did Perez only made one. He only had one entry, I think, and that is the Teen Titans. Um, here's Vic coming in from the top rope.
Maybe.
Crisis was bad at Marvel Secret Wars. The first one was even worse. Yeah.
What do
I
you think
see.
of
I
Marvel
like
Secret
Secret
Wars
Wars.
2, Vic?
I know, right? Yeah, Secret Wars 2, whew, brutal. Yeah, I voted for Secret Wars pretty high. I think it's dumb as shit, but that's kind of what I like about it. You know, that there's
Yeah.
no pretense. Like, let's just put all these guys in one place and do stuff. Um,
Yeah. At the time in my, when I was, you know, I guess I was 13 or something when that came out. What year was it? Was it 84, 85?
85. I think it's the whole of
Okay.
85.
All right. So yeah, I would have been 12 and 13. And but that was kind of interesting, I mean, that was when I was really starting to collect comics. I'd read comics before then, but that was when I was really, collecting them. And just it was like it hadn't been, I'd never seen that before, where you had this company-wide crossover. And I was drinking the Marvel Kool-Aid too. Like, I remember the 2020 special that came out for the 25th anniversary of Marvel. And I just loved all things Marvel. And also, I lived in a place that was not, I didn't have access to a comic shop really. I lived in a small town about 45 minutes south of Houston. And my comics came from the 7-Eleven, in the gas
Yeah,
station. And for whatever reason, they did not carry DCs until after like the Crisis stuff. And then they started getting a few, but it was spotty.
interesting.
So it was pretty much all Marvel. And I liked, I mean, it was like, uh, I would pretty much get anything. Of course, I loved X-Men and Conan and that kind of thing. But if it had been a while and I hadn't had a new comic, I'd buy Avengers West Coast or
Yeah,
Sectors or whatever was there.
yeah, yeah. Donald says heavy metal knocked me out of reading superheroes cold. I never had that experience. Though I haven't been a buyer of new superhero comics in many, many years. But I never abandoned the genre completely. Um,
Yeah. Well, what's funny is like heavy metal was like its own. I mean, it was its own thing.
yeah,
When I was able to finally get a heavy metal magazine, yeah, it knocked me out, and that was the kind of stuff that I was hoping I could find more of. I remember thinking that, like, oh, if only I had access to a comic book shop, I would have all these different comics and genres and all this other stuff. And then, I finally did get to go to a comic shop, and I was like, well, it's kind of the same as the 7-Eleven, except a lot more of it.
yeah,
But yeah, heavy metal and actually Epic was easier for me to find at grocery stores and stuff. And I just loved
interesting.
loved Epic Illustrated. And that was cool too as a kid, because that had some superhero-y stuff in it. I mean, John
Mhm.
Byrne's Last Galactus story, I think, was
Yeah,
in one of the first epics that I got, and but then you also had, Cobalt 60, which I thought
mhm.
was killer. And to be able to read comics with nudity in them as,
Yeah,
a 13 or 14-year-old was excellent.
sure. Yeah, it's a good that's a good bridge comic, right? It takes you to
Yeah.
the next. Same for heavy metal, right? I mean, because a lot of great art in those heavy metals. I mean, not always
Yep.
the greatest stories in the world, but it sort of opens your mind up that there's more stuff out there. Um, so I was really happy that with this list, and this was not planned at all, but Marvel had 35 titles, DC had 35 titles, and there were 30 independents.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that's organic. I did
Yeah.
not tally that up until after the list was already finalized. Um,
I
yeah,
would have
I mean,
guessed there would have been a lot more, Marvel and DC.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was hoping there would be a lot of independents. I mean, you mentioned Mage earlier, and
Yeah.
Zot, and Megaton Man, and Mister Monster, Badger. I mean, there were a whole bunch of comics that could have been on here that didn't have the votes. But still, 30 out of 100 is not bad.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. Um, here's Donald. I guess Den and Tarna were superheroes. Kind of,
I
yeah.
think,
I mean, not really, but kind of. And that was one thing, Donald, when we were all talking about this, was what's the definition of a superhero? And the reality is, you can stretch almost anything
yeah.
to be a superhero comic if you want to try to make an argument for it. So I told people just not to worry about it. Whatever, if you think it's a superhero comic, you vote for it.
Yeah. Then, I think a good argument could be made for Den. I don't know if anybody had that on their list though. I mean,
I don't think so.
uh, I didn't think of it as a superhero comic when we were making the list. But if I wanted to argue, I mean, I could have, I could make that argument, and maybe I should have.
Yeah. When my co-editor Alex and I were first talking about this issue, he brought up Sandman, and I said,
Uh-huh.
"Well, Sandman's not a superhero comic," and he says, "Well, it has Batman in it." And I was like, I don't have a counter argument for that."
Yeah.
You make a very good point, even though I don't think anybody would really consider that a superhero comic,
Yeah.
but it does show how pliable the genre is.
Yeah, something like The Rocketeer, which I'm
Mhm.
I'm sure was on my list, and it made the list. But
It
I mean,
did, yeah,
that's more of like a, an old-fashioned kind of serial inspired action. You know,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's not a superhero comic. I could argue it either way, but that's definitely one that could be argued as not a superhero.
Yeah, I feel like that one's pretty firmly in the camp. Honestly, I don't think there's anything on our list. One thing I didn't vote for, I did not vote for Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
because I didn't really think of that as a superhero comic, but I probably should have. Um, but as it was, I voted for 10 Alan Moore comics, and I thought that might be excessive. Until I got the final list, and he ends up being on 13. Yeah, he has 13 appearances on this list. What did you think about that? I mean, I don't know how many Alan Moores you voted for off the top of your head, but it wasn't 13.
No, but I had some that didn't make it. I mean, I had the Batman Annual 11,
Oh yeah,
which
the mud
didn't make
patch.
it, and maybe there might have been one or two others that were like kind of single stories. I mean, I think it's fair. Every every comic that I see on here by him is, well, like I said, I'm not a big fan of the ABC stuff, so
Sure.
I didn't vote for any of that, but Miracle Man and Watchmen and Swamp Thing, the Superman story that was your number one.
Yeah.
Uh, those
Whenever
all
I'm
belong
doing
on there for
more.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Kirby had 10 spots. And this almost sounds sacrilegious to say, but I thought that was a little excessive. There were it's weird to say that. I love Kirby, so
Yeah.
but I don't know. There were a couple of Kirby's on here I wasn't very enthusiastic about, but they got the
Like
votes. So.
OMAC.
No, OMAC I was fine with, though it did
Oh yeah.
very well. Um,
Yeah, it did.
where's it on the top list? It's like number 20, which is pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Well, the Golden Age Captain America, I was surprised that got votes.
That's one of those books that is like it was easy for me to separate my that's pretty funny. Kirby should have had more. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Oh,
The
he got votes, Vic. It's just
yeah, for sure.
only 10 made it, but he had tons of votes. Trust me.
But I've read that Golden Age, those Kirby issues, and just as a comic, not. I mean, for historically, like, fantastic. I mean, super
Mhm.
important. And I love the covers. I like the idea of it. But reading those comics, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that I'd put ahead of it, like all his Silver Age stuff.
Yeah, which I mean, kind of all made it. I mean,
Yeah, except for Hulk.
yeah, and that I guess that was the one that was on the edge. If he had a longer run, it probably would have made the list. His
Yeah.
the Silver Age Captain America didn't make it either. and that did get votes, but it didn't get enough to get in.
Yeah, I think I voted for that. If I didn't, I should have.
Yeah. Yeah, Golden Age caption, I made it. I agree. I think that was, this list is really light on stuff from the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
There's nothing from the 30s, 6 things from the 40s, and 0 comics that started in the 50s, which kind of makes sense because that was a sort of fallow period for superheroes.
But you have with the spirits on here.
Yeah, I think it started in the 40s, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Spirit, Captain Marvel, Plastic Man, Captain America, and Miss Fury. But yeah, I don't know, with the Kirby stuff, I guess really my only real gripe is the Golden Age Captain America, and maybe his Black Panther, I think is probably, that's questionable. Most of the other stuff I don't really have a problem with. His I'm really glad his 70s Captain America made it.
Those Captain Victory.
Yeah, Captain Victory. Silver Star. Those are all pretty defensive. Here's another one, Eternals.
Yeah.
Eternals is not good, and I've read that recently. And it's not even really fun.
I like it. Oh, it's a lot more fun than the movie.
That's the lowest of bars.
I like the Eternals. I was really I can't remember if it was if Ray wrote a review of it or if he did an oral review, but his review of it was pretty damn funny. I enjoyed it. But I mean, he hated it like you hate it, I think. So
I don't hate it. I do think Ray summed it up when he said a rare miss from Kirby. It just didn't quite land. It seemed like kind of a slog. That's a comic that probably would have been benefited from being canceled earlier, because I think he kind of used up what he had to say in the beginning, and it just kind of kept going. And by the time you get to like 17 issues, you're like, I don't care anymore,
Yeah.
But it's certainly not a terrible comic. I mean, and Kirby has such a high floor that it's hard to argue against pretty much anything he did. Steve Ditko did well, but maybe not as well as some people might imagine. I think he's in 4 Ditkos. Does that surprise you at all? Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Shade the Changing Man, and Mr. A.
I guess Shade and Mr. A kind of surprised me, but not. I mean, I wasn't super shocked considering. I think pretty much all of the list makers have an interest in the unusual and weird and alternative. These days, even if we all grew up reading superheroes and still have an affinity for them.
Sure. Yeah, one of the criteria for people I asked to contribute a list was I wanted them to be people who had read other kinds of comics. There's lots of people you can find who love superheroes, but I wanted people who had also read your heavy metals, your Fantagraphics, your foreign comics, your manga. I wanted people who had tried other things, because I wanted a list that was one that had good context, but also would include some of left field titles.
Yeah.
I felt like I was cutting you off.
No, yeah. I just, well, that's one thing we didn't really talk about is how did you said briefly that through Canon, your zine is how you met everybody. I know that we met just because I think I through my Instagram or whatever, I ordered Canon, and then we kind of got to know each other through that.
I think YouTube comments. That might have been where I first was aware of you.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then you popped up on Instagram. I think that's the thing. everyone who was a list maker for this issue has contributed to canon, except for Damien, Sleepy Reader, who I knew through YouTube and Twitter back in the old days when everybody was on Twitter. But yeah, all the canon not all of the canon people, but most of the canon people I met on social media previously through Twitter or YouTube. In the late teens. But there were a handful of people I asked to contribute that did not contribute. Which I was kind of glad about when I was having to sort through all these fucking ballots, but there was also, a couple people I thought, oh, they'll have a different perspective, but we had 11. The original journalist was only 8 people.
Wow.
So by comparison, ours was even larger, though maybe a more narrow demographic group. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think, I don't know, do you think that there was a wide enough range of voters?
Well, I mean, demographically speaking.
I mean, even in terms of demographically speaking,
numbers.
It's pretty tough. All middle-aged men, but but in terms of numbers, or in terms of
I think it's good. I think it's good. It would be unwieldy. I mean, it gets unwieldy with you get more and more stuff to sift through, and there was a lot of overlap already. I mean, I don't know that you need another 10 people to put Watchmen on the list, for example.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you see these people who do these giant aggregates of lists, you see that it really waters them down, and I think it pushes popular work to the top. It pushes conventional work to the top, and so there's a guy on Reddit who he has a website. I think his website might be called Comic Book Canon. And basically he goes around and looks for every list he can find of a best list. And he kind of has a master list. It's not personal. It's not personal in any way. He's pure math,
Yeah.
But you get shit like Saga on there, because, it's popular and that's what people have read. You just don't get the idiosyncratic stuff. We'll say hi to Chris here. Chris, who is a guy I know from YouTube. He buys every issue of Canon. Thank you, Chris, for your continued support.
Hello, Chris.
He was also a guy that I invited to participate and didn't. So, and it's too bad because I knew nobody else was going to vote for Spawn, but I thought he might. So I kind of wanted that sort of perspective. But Spawn, no votes. No votes.
But we did have votes for Savage Dragon. It made the top 100.
It did make the top 100. I just see this is on my phone, but Alex, my partner in crime with Canon, says he's watching right now.
Awesome.
And he's enjoying it. So I'm trying to get Alex to come on and do one of these. I'd like to talk to him about the actual making of the issue, since he's the one that does all the real work, getting it all put together and finding good visuals and having to put up with my bullshit.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. And I think that, y'all have done a great job with Canon and Die With Your Mask On, and every issue looks better. I mean, it just gets better and better.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This issue we really tried to pull out the stops for. It's almost all devoted to the list itself. There's only a little bit of extra matter like statistics and a couple of short essays, and then there's personal statements from all of us. Yours is blessedly short, Jeremy, which I really appreciate. I think yours is even shorter than mine. I don't know if you've even looked at your personal statement since you wrote it, but Um, did you read everybody else's? Have you looked at those at all?
I did. Yeah. Um, but I can't read. I don't have any specific comment about them. I think it's, you know, it's interesting to get the personal stories. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The journal, when they did their top 100, they did not run personal statements in the issue, but they did run them a couple issues later.
That's right.
I think all but one guy contributed lists, which is the same here. All but one guy contributed a personal statement. So I liked that context. I like people kind of explaining themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
No one needs to explain themselves. I think everyone did a great job with their personal lists, but it's just nice to know what the thinking is and maybe what kind of hoops they jump through themselves. Did you find making a list to be enjoyable?
I did find it enjoyable. Yeah. It was fun. It was fun to think about this stuff that I hadn't thought about in a long time, most of it. And like I said, I thought that it was going to be difficult to come up with 100, and then I had difficulty whittling it down to 100. Because just like off the top of my head, I had a huge list, and then I just started looking through my comics and adding and adding and adding. So
Yeah.
which is always fun. Any excuse to go back through your comics is always fun. It's like being a kid and organizing them again and
Yeah.
getting them all out and looking at them, and that's fun.
How big was your kind of master list? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I want to say that it was 150-ish.
It's
Yeah.
not too bad.
How big? How long was yours?
Probably not much longer than that. It wasn't
Yeah.
200 or something. I know that. Like I said, I had a bunch that I thought were going to be on there no matter what, and then those started slipping off as I started considering other ones and as I started rereading.
Yeah.
Something like The Shadow by Howard Chaykin wasn't on my list, but when I reread it, I put it on my list. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, here's Terrence. So Terrence is a guy. Here's another guy that I really tried to get to do a list. He was highly skeptical, though I know he did start to try to put one together. He was just very, very busy at the time. But I would have liked to see what Terrence would have come up with, because I think he would have been less conventional, maybe, than a couple of us were.
Well, I know Daredevil would be on there for sure.
Yeah, well, he's a Daredevil guy. He's a Doctor Strange guy. He's a Batman guy. I mean, just between those, you can get a lot of comics. So
yeah.
Yeah. I think Gary Usher, who I'm supposed to talk to tomorrow, which I'm really hoping happens. My fingers are crossed. It'll be his YouTube debut after years and years of commenting on videos. But his list was probably the most, I don't want to call it unconventional, but it was really weighted towards like undergrounds and alternatives. Lots of Golden Age stuff. He was the only one who was really going in on Golden Age votes.
Oh yeah. I think we both had Trash Man on our list.
There you go. Yeah. That would have been great to make the list. I mean, for Gary, I think the only like straight face superhero stuff he had was like the Legion from the 80s and Byrne's Fantastic Four, the kind of stuff everybody was reading, you're not a Legion guy. You said you don't like team books. Have you ever read Legion?
No, I've never given it a chance. I should read it. Okay. A lot of people love it, so I should give it a shot.
Have you been watching those Michel Fiffe, Keith Giffen videos?
No, I need to. That was another thing. Like I was never, I read some Giffen books. I really liked the Justice League, the Giffen and I never know how to pronounce his name. Dematius. How do you say it?
Demetrius, I think.
Dematius.
Demetrius. Yeah.
And I love those. But I was never a huge. I never got. I didn't. It wasn't for any reason. I just never got into it. Into Giffen. And then when the Munoz swipe thing happened in the Comics Journal, I was reading the Comics Journal at the time, and so
Yeah.
everything that they said was the word of God. So Giffen swiping people.
That article is pretty damning.
Yeah.
I looked at it again just recently, and it's pretty damning.
Yeah.
The number of swipes that the guy found is pretty crazy.
Right.
Yeah, Terrence, like me, is also excited, and so is Donald, at the prospect of Gary Escher appearing, the mysterious Gary Escher, who also writes for Canon and also contributes subjects I never see coming. Every time he suggests something, it's out of left field, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing this tomorrow.
Yeah, let's hope it comes off.
Yeah.
I've
got too much YouTube to watch. I got that. I've got Cerebus, issue number 4. I still have to watch that.
It's true. Yeah, something fell for all of you out there with nothing better to do. Well, Jeremy, we sort of meandered around the thing, but considering we're the first ones to talk about this, I think we did okay.
I think it was great considering there was no outline at all.
No structure, and the viewers can tell. Is there anything we didn't get to? Anything? Any burning issue that you wish we had addressed?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think the issue it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to work on it. I had more fun reading it than working on it, and I think that you and Eric and who was the third? Was that Ryan or Chris?
It was Chris Russ.
Chris, who helped.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, y'all did a fantastic job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Here's Terrence saying it's good to see you in person, Jeremy.
Yeah, one of these days we'll all get on a call.
Yeah, for sure.
I enjoy watching your stuff, Terrence.
Yes, for sure. All right, Jeremy. Well, we'll call it a night then, and
good times.
Maybe I can pull you on to do something like this again, and maybe even with another one of these top 100 guys if it works out.
Let's do it.
Sound good?
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night, Donald, Vic, Chris, Terrence, and anybody else who may have been lurking in the background. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
All right. Bye, Jeremy. Thanks.
Bye.